Hi guys, welcome back to another episode where today I'm responding to a few hundred comments, I reckon, maybe even 1,000 comments once you include all the different social media pages, where people are asking for a tool bag tour of all the different tradesmen. And I thought, well, I finished a bit early today. I need to sort out my tools because you know what it's like the amount of crud and random stuff that is now building up and collecting in the bottom of my tool bag. That's a nice bit of leaf and things in there. I need to clean it out, need to service all my toys. I'm going to give them a nice oil clean up. And I thought, what better a time than to show you what's in there for if you're collecting tools, or even some people just are nosy and like to see other people's tools. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this is it. This is the tool bag I use right now. I'm often switching between tool bags. I have a few that I like, but this one I tend to come back to just because I can fit so much and also because I can just slide it in the side. However, yeah, I do quite often change. I'm thinking of trying Velocity one at the minute, and I'm also thinking of trying the Milwaukee Pack Out open tote one just because that looks pretty nice. And I've also got quite a lot of Pack Out stuff that I've just ordered. So this is what I'm using at the minute, and I find it works for me and it's good. Whatever works for you with your different types of work and things. It takes a long time to build a toolkit. It's not something really where you can just buy it and then you're done. It's like it takes doing a job. Something like this, your little 3.5 tap. You wouldn't think all the time as an apprentice how handy that is to have in your bag, but actually that is a tool where you maybe use once a year, but the one time a year that you do use it, it's got you seriously out of a tight space. So I'll show you what I have and why it's earned its place in the bag. I think as I go through it, there are even some bits that I think haven't really earned their keep recently. And because it's such a heavy backpack, or such a heavy hold, or whatever you want to call it, I'm going to be taking bits out of my bag as well and explaining why they come out of my bag. So let me show you what's inside. Let's give this a little hoover. Right, now for the fun part of actually cleaning all of these bad boys, because some of them have just got filthy. I'm not worried about having dusty, dirty tools or anything like that, but I do think maintenance is very important. Tools are expensive. Look after them and they'll look after you, you know? They'll last longer, work better, ends up with you getting home quicker, then it's all a win, isn't it? I've got so many tools as well that are doubles, because my bag's been so full and I've been so busy I've not even realised. I've got two of these flat half-round files, so this one can go in my little spare tools box. This Halterforge hammer, this is something that I really thought was a gimmick, but after having used it I thought, how can they make an electrician's hammer? How is this any different to just a normal hammer that I've used my whole life? Try it and you'll see. Fantastic, and it's so small it fits in my tool bag and I can zip it up and everything, so I like it. This is some of the rubbish. Them cutters have some bullet holes in them from fuse finding missions that they found themselves on. This is everything that I have basically in my hand tools, and now I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, this is actually so much stuff. What I might end up doing at some point is buying like job bags, because this is kind of I can turn up to any job, domestic, commercial, very light industrial, and pretty much know I've got the stuff that I can carry out any task. But I don't think that's necessary, because when I'm looking at it, I've got so many repeat tools that, if I'm being honest, I just have in there because they're really cool. Like, this is such a cool tool, but if I'm being honest, this and this are both serving exactly the same function, so I don't really need to have both of them in my bag. I could save some weight there, so probably not necessary. Again, these are the Klein Tamper bit screwdrivers. I don't use them all the time, but when I'm doing EVs sometimes and they have funky little screws on them, they come in really handy. And they're not always ones that are in here. This doesn't have the security tools, so they have earned their place in the bag. These, don't use them very often, but these are my don't die pliers. When I'm reaching into the back of a switch or a live fuse board or something to grab, pretty handy. This, you've seen this before. This is the best spirit level ever made, and I don't say that lightly. It's just fantastic and lights up in the dark. Didn't know I needed it until I used it. My Boddington bang bang pliers, very careful with those. And all my screwdrivers and everything. Okay, so what I'll do is, I'll load it up into my bag and then I'll show you what I have in there. So I should have done this sooner. I'm now realising how many of my tools are missing. I don't know where got my big Klein pliers. They're probably just fallen out into the back. This bag has been chaotic for too long. The front of the bag, this is where I put all my everyday carry, like tools that I'm really regularly using. If it's not very common, say something like this, I use that to flush cut. I'm not really using it for its proper purposes, but if I see cable ties or something that have still got a sharp end on them, so I'm doing an EICR or something, even I see them on a tray, so someone doesn't slice their hand open on them, I just flush cut them. So they're handy to keep, but I don't use them very regularly. So they go in the back. My back is my sparingly used tools section, basically. So things like bush wrench, for me, rarely using it, but I do need it. So that finds its way into the back. This, I'm umming and ahhing whether or not it's earned its keep recently. It's the EV Ultra stripper. But before they changed the recipe on the cable, the EV Ultra, it was really necessary because it was really stiff. Metal file, put that in the back. Not often cutting metal at the minute, the work I'm doing. That was a very handy tool, but now since they've changed it, I don't really feel like it's as hard to strip anymore, so I don't really feel like I need it. Okay, so all of this mess here, these are the tools that didn't survive the cut. This nut driver, awesome. It's going to stay in my van, but I don't think it's going to be in my daily carry tool bag. I just think if I haven't used it much in the last 6 months, it doesn't belong there. These I'm about to put back in. These silica things that you get with packages and parcels, and I've bought these reusable ones. I put these in my tool bag. Reason being, I hate having rusty tools. So what I'll do, is I just slip them in the front here. A couple in the front, a couple in the back. And it just helps fight moisture a little bit, stops your tools going rusty in the van. So all of these are the tools that didn't make the cut. This beautiful screwdriver, but again, I mentioned it in this Tools for Sparks video. The fact that it's a Robertson 2-head or the square 2-head, even though it's such a lovely bit of kit, it's just not really much use to me. But all the rest of it, I have managed to use the other ones. So I've got the PH bits and the flathead bits in there. But I'm a huge fan of them. I think they look so nice. So this is my final product. This knife, it didn't make the cut because that just usually lives in my pocket. I know you've got to be careful in the UK carrying a knife, but I use it all the time for stripping cables and things. So I think it's essential. Set square, again, I just don't use it enough to justify having it in my bag. I think having it in the van is plenty. Data, we'll come to that later. I'm making a little pack out kit for that, for all my data and everything. So I just have one pack out with all my data tools in there. Okay, so these are the tools that survived the cut. So we've got my pliers over here, all my cutting tools just here, hammer, screwdrivers, the rest of my screwdrivers. So these are my regular everyday screwdrivers. These are my slightly less common used ones, like for the main heads and things. Got my threading tool over there, my 3.5mm threading tool, my little terminal drivers for boiler connections and things like that. And then on the back, we've got my slightly more niche tools. So my Bosch Go, pretty cool for EICRs and stuff. I keep that in there. All my Klein bit drivers and stuff, a file. So nothing too specialist, nothing too crazy. It fits my my crimper in there nicely, and it fits my hacksaw as well. There's nothing too crazy in there really. The bag, again, if I've not mentioned it already, is the Vito Tech XL. I keep these in there, the little Hellerman Titan label kit. You can get similar in the description below, and that just comes with a little picking tool, so you can just pick off your labels. It's handy if you're trying to do a board change or something and you can't be bothered to walk back to the van, because I've got a bigger kit in the van. These are my Bosch Go bits. I usually keep them in there, but again, I think I'm doubling up on tools because I've already kind of got that there with my Weira stuff. So yeah, don't really need anything more than that. Everything else should be all good. Soldering iron, something I used to keep in my bag. I'm going back to using a heat gun and an electric soldering iron, because this one, the tip broke on it, but I was just using it as a little miniature heat gun. But again, doesn't need to be in my everyday tool bag. It's still extremely heavy, but it's much, much lighter than what it was. So that is it. That is my tool bag tour. Nice, clean, organised tools. Should be everything I need to carry out most installation work. You can find the link to a lot of those tools below. And if you've got any questions, just hit me up on Instagram here or on the comments just below. Thank you. See you next time.